right? So I'll talk about this shortly. So we need to deploy the data services cloud console, assign the administrator, right? And this is the GreenLake dedicated platform. We need to add the device to the workspace, assign the resources, and we need to export the resources, right? So this is the one that is totally different. So we need to export the resources, right? So after the resources are exported, it's actually a JSON file. This one here. Okay. So what is this dedicated platform? Right? So the dedicated platform is actually this. Right? Let me bring up this slide deck here. Um, okay. Right. So what is actually a dedicated platform? So basically, this is not it's not air gap, right? So it's a on-prem DSCC, right? So let me jump to this slide here. This one, okay? So basically, is a on-prem on customer environment, the dedicated data services cloud console. So what is also known as the disconnected DSCC. Okay. So what the customer needs to have. So first of all, the customer needs to specify the B10000, what types of deployment that the customer needed. Okay. So we have the GreenLake Cloud connected and the disconnected model. Okay. So if you look at this slide, so what do we need? So when the customer order the B10000 for the dedicated cloud platform on-prem, so basically the customer needs to pay for the implementation of this. So first of all, you need to have a dedicated ProLiant server. So on this ProLiant server, you actually install the Morpheus, right? The VME essential, the VM essential. So the HVM, basically, right? The hypervisor. So on the VM essential, you need to deploy the VME manager. And then on this Morpheus, right? The HVM, you will deploy the disconnected VM. Okay. So on this disconnected VM, there is three different services, right? So this is what they call the customer on-prem DSCC, right? So you have the CCS, you have the DSCC UI, and you have the DSCC tunnel, okay? So to do this, you need to allocate 7 additional IP addresses, right? One for each implementation. Okay. So this is the DNS. So you need to set up the DNS, 3A record, 4C names, right? And it's not simple, right? So you have a lot of things to configure first, right? And then this is all the installation, right? That will happen. So what really happened here is, let's go back to the welcome center. So you can see these exported resources here, this one, right? So you do the GreenLake and export the configuration. So once the JSON file is exported, you need to do the physical, and then when you come to the software, right? So when you come to the software part, this one here, right? You need to import the zip file, right? You need to import the JSON zip file into this platform here. Okay, so this is what they call um, the GreenLake disconnected solution. Okay, so once you import the config file to the dedicated GreenLake workspace, right, on the ProLine server, so you can then discover the array, connect the array to the on-prem DSCC, right, and then you continue to set up the array, right? So basically, these are the GreenLake disconnected, right? Dedicated platform. Okay. So let's go back to the top, right? So we'll do the cloud portal, right? The GreenLake cloud platform and installation in our lab using the discovery tool. So before that, let me do this. So let me select the Bluetooth, right? So the GreenLake cloud platform and the Bluetooth method here. So when it comes to the software configuration, right, this part here, you can see there's a recorded video, right? So this is the Bluetooth connectivity, right? So the Bluetooth method to set up the B10000. So there's a recorded video here. If you are interested or you're doing a Bluetooth connectivity setup, so this is the resources that you want to do. Okay. Now, so let me come back here and change to the discovery tool. So when I change this installation method to the connectivity wizard or the discovery tool here, so what have changed? So if I go to the software, the recorded video is different. Okay. So the recorded video here is different because we will be using the discovery tool software and search the B10000 factory default system using the serial number. So this is the method using the Microsoft Windows platform. But if you have a Linux or a Mac OS, so there is no discovery tool, right? Linux or Mac OS platform. So the method is open up the browser, right? HTTP to the Alletra dash the serial number of the B10000 dot local. Okay, so this is the discovery method here, right? For the discovery tool, right? So let's come back up to the top, right? So we selected this. So when it goes to the cloud enablement, so the process is still the same, okay? So if the customer is new to HPE GreenLake, right? So customer is totally new to the HPE GreenLake. So the customer need to create the GreenLake super user account, right? So basically this is I use the word super user because it's a super admin, right? So this workspace belongs to the customer organization, okay? So create the account, verify the email. So after the email account process is completed, create a new workspace. So any one of you, right? So any one of you, if you are totally new, please go ahead and watch the video here, okay? So everything is in the welcome center, so you can view the video, right, to see what is the step by step to create the account, to create the workspace. So after the workspace is created, you need to set up the GreenLake workspace to have the application. So the application is the Data Services Cloud Console. Okay. So find the application Data Services, and the Data Services, you need to select the deployment region. Okay. So the deployment region is basically the internet connectivity closest to where the equipment, right, the customer data center is located. Okay. So you do this, right? Assign to the region. Now, so I mentioned this in the front here, right? So the user account is a super user for the whole organization, right? So the whole workspace, everything. So this is a super user account. So try to avoid using this for the day-to-day operation. And also, you can see this at the part here, right? Assign administrators. So for all other user, right? For all other user, you create additional user account, right? User A, user B, user C, user D, right? All the different user, they have their own account, and you give them different permission, different role. Okay. So whether the user is an administrator or the user is help desk, right? So what is the difference, right? The different role here, the different permission. So some people can edit, cannot delete. Some people can create and delete everything, right? So some people can only read only, right? So the different role,
Welcome
different
to the
permission,
tutorial on deploying
and
services
also
for your HPE
different
GreenLake platform.
application, right? So
From the
setup
HPE GreenLake
services, block
homepage,
storage,
click on the Find Services
data
button
ops
in the Getting
manager.
Started area at the
So
top of the screen.
what they can do,
For this
what they
example,
cannot
we'll
do,
deploy
right?
data
So you
services
can
for a
set this
storage
up
device,
for all
so
the
I'll
different
select that
users.
option.
And the last
Select
part
the
here is assign, right? Add the device to the workspace. So when you add the device to the workspace, so first thing, this is what you need to know. So the B10000, what is the customer contract, right? So basically whether the customer is purchase and own the product, or the customer is leasing the product, pay per use. Okay. So you need to select the type, and you need to know the serial number of the B10000, because this serial number, we have two different serial number, right? So let me go back to the slides here. Uh, Let me come back up here, right? And let's take a look at module number 4, right? I just want to show you one picture, right? So you can see this. So this is the tag that you pull out from the front, right? So what do you see? You have two different serial number. So one of it is the storage system serial number, and the one below is the controller chassis serial number. Okay. So if you have 4 controllers, 4 nodes, you have chassis number 1 and you have chassis number 2, right? So chassis 1 and chassis 2, they have two different serial number. Okay. So what is needed is the one on the top, right? The storage system, the B10000 serial number, and you see the product ID here. Okay, so that's the important thing to take note. Make sure you know how to get the correct serial number, right? And also the product number that I have just mentioned. Okay, now, so what else is important here is um, part of the factory order fulfillment procedure. Okay, so let me find one of the older PowerPoint slides. This one here. Okay, so part of the factory, right? So when the factory process the order for the customer, so this is the example, right? You can see this is at the early time frame when the product is still green lake for block storage. Okay, so this one is like July 2022, right? About 4 years ago, right? So when the customer purchase, so the factory process the order. So based on the information given to the factory, so when they process the order, so they will send out this in the email. Okay, so you can see the email address, right? The purchase order number, so the solution codes and everything. So basically, the customer will receive this email. So they need to do click this, so they see the electronic receive. So you see the product IDs and everything. So they have the instruction. So what the customer need to do is follow the instruction to get the subscription key. This one here, right? So the customer needs to get the subscription key. Without the subscription key, you cannot set up the system. Okay? So basically activate the subscription key, right? So once you get a key, this is the old Green Lake screenshot here, the old Green Lake portal. So what we need to do is we need to put in the subscription key together with the serial number, right? So let's come back to this slide here. Sorry, this part here. So we need the serial number, we need the product ID, and we need the subscription key to complete the whole procedure, the whole process. Okay, so that is the requirement, right, on this last part here. So there's a recorded video. Okay, now, so this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to log in to the Green Lake, right? So let me go to the Green Lake portal. And also, let me go back to my PowerPoint. So let me open up this PPTX file, the VLab environment PPTX file, right? Which is the file that you can download from Adobe Connect, right? So the first file here, PPTX, right? So if you download the PPTX file, you see all the slides, right? Which is here. So the DSCC blueprint, do not change the password, right? So this is all the information that you need to use um, for your lab. And this is the Green Lake portal login and the password. Okay. So this is what I need to show you the login. Okay. So let's go to my Firefox browser here. So go to the common.cloud.hpe.com, the URL here, right? So I'll let me do this. Right, so let me copy this URL into the classroom chat here. Right, so common.cloud.hpe.com, and let me go back here. Right, so the user account is using the email tls.1202624@hpevlabs.net. So click continue. So this is a new thing in the GreenLake. This is the new thing in the GreenLake, right? So we have a single sign-on. No, we are not using single sign-on. We are using the password. Okay, see the password here. So make sure you select here, sign in using HPE account password. Right? So when we get to the password, right, we need to type in this password here. P alias, right, the A S 50610, right? So that is the login for the VLab equipment in the DSCC. Okay, so this is the GreenLake. So we already have the workspace, right? So this is the workspace. Now, so the GreenLake portal continuously change, right? So is continuously changing. So what I want to explain here is this: your lab guide, right? So your lab exercise, right? So let me open up the B10000 lab here, right? The lab guide. So let me show you this. So as I go through the pages, right? So this is logging into the VLab, right? Join the course. So I'll give you the username and the password, everything. So this is the registration and the onboarding, right? Lab 1. So basically, you see some of this, right? Part of your lab, right? So we run through the setup. So basically, what I want to explain here is this. The GreenLake workspace already set up and completed over here, right? So if you look at the Asset Explorer, you can see all the devices, right? So so you see the serial number 4412. So let me do a sort, right? So 4412, 4413, 4494, 4495. Array 1, Array 2, Array 3, Array 4. So the data services region is US West. Okay. So for each one of these B10000 system, we have already put in the subscription key, right? The serial number and the part number. Okay. So this is the subscription key that is logged to the serial number 4412. And the subscription key basically is the license, right? So the license for all the services. So it has an expiry date. So this is March 14, 2028. Okay, so that's an example. So it's already there in the GreenLake workspace. right? So you don't have to do this in the lab exercise, right? So this is the login, okay? Now, so basically, let's go back to Welcome Center, right? So that's everything done. Cloud enable, right? The GreenLake workspace, everything is done. So the next step is the pre-installation, right? So let me change this a little bit, right? So you can see all the text here. So this is the summary. So the first thing you want to look at is you see the name is still the old name, right? GreenLake for block storage, initialization worksheet, right? So for more in-depth, you have the planning and preparation in the hardware and software. So all these are URL link to the support center document. Okay. Now you can always do a search, right? So if I go to where is my support center here, right? So if I go to the support center and do a search, right? Where do I get it? Okay, over here. So if I copy the link, right, from Welcome Center and paste the link here, right? So basically, this is the link to the worksheet. Okay. So this is the link to the initialization worksheet. So what do we need? Serial number, subscription key, IP address, subnet mask, gateway, DNS, proxy, NTP server, right? NTP server, customer contact details. If the customer want to have email alerts, so the system name, the country location, the IP address for the storage, the subnet mask, the gateway. So this is IPv4. If the customer is using IPv6, the system, right? The B10,000, the administrator account, and the password. Okay, so this is the installation worksheet. Okay, so which I take the link from here, right? Now, so as you go through the Welcome Center pre-installation, so the next step is the system time, right? So before you do the setup, it's the same for Alletra 9000, right? If you do the setup, so if your controller nodes, right? Controller node 0, controller node 1, if you have two, or if you have the switch model, right? Controller node 3 and 4, so the 4 controller node system. So before you do the setup, this is the challenge, right? So if the controller is factory default, so what it means is the date and time is not configured. Okay. So what do you need to do? So as part of the requirement, you need to set up the date and time. So the recommendation is a NTP server. Okay. So if the date and time is more than 2 minutes, right? Date and time is more than 2 minutes from the internet, right? The UTC time, right? The global time, UTC. So you may not be able to set up the system, right? So this is why we need to make sure the NTP server, right? The NTP services is correct. So it's synchronized to the global time services. Okay. Now, so this is the internet connected to the Green Lake. So we need to make sure the DNS server is working. So for example, the fully qualified domain name, right? So device.cloud.hpe.com. So we see this in a firewall. So basically, let's go to the firewall here, right? So basically, the DNS services, they need to resolve the fully qualified domain name, right? So you see all this, right? So the fully qualified domain name, the DNS must be working to solve this, right? Now, so what is this one here? Instant name, right? So the instant name is the region that is available around the world. Okay. So we have UK1, we have Europe1, right? EU1, we have UAE1, JP1 in Japan, and US1 for Americas. Okay. So these are all the region around the world. Okay. So the region around the world is, remember the cloud enablement here, right? So when we deploy the DSCC, right? When we deploy the DSCC, we must select the deployment region. Okay. So this is the recorded video, right? So where is our VLAB equipment? So the region is US West, right? US West. So what it means is when you go to the firewall, US1 is the region, right, for our VLAB equipment. Now, so what do is let me bring up a command prompt, right? So let me open up NS lookup, right? So I set it to Google. So basically, want to make sure my VPN is not connected. Okay, so my VPN is not connected. So basically, nothing to do with HPE intranet. So basically, it's on the public. So I set it up to the Google DNS. So let's go and find out where is this region, right? So do a lookup console dash, right, US1, right, dot data dot cloud dot hpe.com, right? So when you do an NS lookup, right, of the console, right, dot cloud dot hpe.com, so you see the IP addresses, right, all this. So let's open up another command prompt here, right, run, okay. So let's do a trace 18.161.179.119. Oops, miss out the 9. Okay. So when I do a trace of that IP address, right? So this is in a cloud front, right? So that's the location of this. So let's try this one here, right? Data.cloud instant name. right? So we can try any one of this. So this is the Data Services Cloud Console Instant, right? So we don't want to go to the console. So we do us1.cloud.hpe.com. So we have a different IP address, right, in the list. So let's stop the trace and change the IP address 34.208.101.13, right? So US West, and the location is Amazon AWS, right? So compute Amazon AWS. So that's the location of US1, right? .cloud.hpe.com. So basically, the data services cloud console instant is hosted in Amazon.com US West. Okay, so basically, this is the example, right? So you do a validation, right, of the DNS. So when you do the validation of the DNS, make sure the customer network can connect, right, to those locations. So basically, you can see all the connectivity is TCP using HTTPS, right, port 443 connection, right? So this is all the validation that you need to do before you continue with the setup. Okay, so that is from the environment that we have, right? So hold on, this is my email. Okay, right. So that's the pre-installation. Then let's come down to here. So we have the initialization worksheet that I mentioned just now, and then if you need to download the Discovery Tool software, so this is the link to download, right? And then, so that's all the pre-installation. So after that, you will come to here, the physical installation, right? So this is the rack and the layout, okay? So the second step is the unbox. So remember, I selected field integration, right? So field integrated. So the factory will ship the equipment in pallet and boxes. So there's a recorded video. Then this is the rack installation. So the rack installation, we have the rail shelf, right? The left side, right hand side, installing the chassis, right? The controller nodes, the drive IOM, so the controller chassis and the JBOF, right? So this is the video, and then installing the HBA card, right? So the OCP card basically, right? And then installing the physical hard disk in the front. And what I want to do is talk about the cabling. So when it comes to the cabling, so we have the admin ports, right? The LAN cables and everything. So this is the CDM, right? So the CDM, which is the OCU link adapter, right? So remember this. So controller chassis CDM, right? Controller chassis, the CDM, the OCU link cable must be connected to the same Ethernet as the controller node admin port. Okay, but the CDM LAN cable that is connected, you don't have to assign any IP address. So they will automatically use the link local IP, IPv6. Okay. And then for the drive enclosure, right, JBOF drive enclosure, at least one drive chassis CDM per base rack is connected to the same Ethernet management network. Okay, so follow all the procedure here to do the physical installation. Now, so the next step is cable the ports, right? So you can see at the bottom here, so we have the cabling tools. So this is a common cabling tools. So we are working with the B10000. Okay. So we are working with the B10000. So it's a new installation. So you drop down the list. You can see the 8-core controller. See the number on the side here, right? See all this number on the side. So what is this number, right? S0S38. So what is this number here? So this number is actually this one here. So on the controller IOM, there is a 5 by 5 number, right? See this? So R7D02 example, right? So R7D02, right? R7D02, that is the 16-core CPU controller, right? So the 8-core is S38. So let's do starting from the lowest system, right? The 8-core system. So we only have 2 controller and we cannot have drive enclosure, right? So basically, this is the same as the slide earlier here. Let's go back up here. See this? So the 8-core system, right? The 8-core system here, right? This line, we cannot add JBOF, right? Only the internal in the front 24 hard disks. That is the only supported configuration, right? So only the 24 drive in the front. So what is the cabling that we need? LAN cable to the admin port and another LAN cable to the admin port, right? So this is the 8-core system. Now, if I change this to the 16-core, right? So R7D02. So maximum is also 2 controller nodes. And the drive enclosure, we can have 1, we can have 2. So let me select 2 drive enclosure here. So what you see on the picture? So the controller is E01, bay number 1, and bay number 2. So controller node 0 and the controller node 1. Okay. Now, so what is the cable that we need? So the DP port, right? So slot number 2, the DP port here, right? So basically, slot number 2, right? So these are the DP port, right? So basically, let me put it on the slideshow here, right? So port number 1 and the port number 1, and the port number 2. Okay, so that's the slot number 2 here. This one. Okay, so what we need to do is connect the cable to the JBOF E41 Bay 1 and E41 Bay 2. So what you do is this, you can see on the top here. See this? Right? So the blue color on the controller side and the yellow color on the JBOF enclosure side. So you can see all this number here, right? So what is this number? See all this, right? So the number is actually the color code labels, right? So let me fast forward here. Let me see if I have the picture. Not this one. There's color code labels that ship with the system. Do we have? No. Okay. So we don't have it here. Let me show you another place, right? So let's go back to recorded video, right? So you see the data port cable here. So let me play this video. So before I play the video, let me make it bigger.
The following instruction is for data cabling in direct attach configurations. For data cabling in switched configurations, watch a different video. Use the HPE cabling tool to take you through the process of data cabling for your configuration. A link to the HPE cabling tool is available through the HPE Welcome Center website. It can be run as a progressive web app from a Google Chrome browser, on an Apple Mac computer, or can be downloaded and installed as an app on your Microsoft Windows computer. The process begins by choosing HPE Alletra Storage MP B10000. Then choose This is a new HPE Alletra Storage MP B10000. The next step is to choose one of the configurations from the pull-down menu. The 1 in the 4th digit position indicates the system is switchless. The next digit signifies 2 for 8-core, 3 for 16-core, and 4 for 32-core. But there is a further designation at the start of the system selection. Clicking on the I after node label is a reminder to check the front of the controller node to know which system to select. For direct attach configurations, do not check the Has Switch Pair option. Also, for direct attach configurations, the only number of controller nodes available is 2. You then have the option to choose 1 or 2 drive enclosures. Choose rack depth, electrical standard, and power standard. For 32-core systems, the tool includes node-to-node connections. This is not required for 8 or 16-core systems because the pathway is handled by internal mezzanine cards. The tool takes you step by step through the choosing of the appropriate cables, labeling, and connecting. For all cables other than the short half-meter internode cables, attach 2 labels to each end, including source and destination, with the destination always closest to the end of the cable. For example, our 32-core system with 1 controller enclosure and 1 drive enclosure will begin with a short DAC cable to connect both the port 1s of the adapters in slot 1 of each node. Bay 1, slot 1, port 1 to Bay 2, slot 1, port 1. Next, to ensure redundancy, a short DAC cable connects the port 2s of slot 1 adapters in each node controller. Then, a 1 meter DAC cable from slot 2, port 1 of the Bay 1 node controller to slot 1, port 1 of the drive IOM in Bay 1 in the first and only drive enclosure E41. And finally, a second 1 meter DAC cable from slot 2, port 1 of Bay 2 node controller to slot 1, port 1 of the drive IOM in Bay 2 of the drive enclosure E41. Add the data cables to the cable organizer loom to route them out of the way. Be sure to return to the cabling overview video for the rest of the non-data cabling if it has not already been done.
All right, so that's the example, right? The example of the cabling, right, with the label. So let's go back to this one here, right? So basically, you can see from the video the use of the cabling tools. Now, so what I want to explain here is if I select 32 core. So you see all this here. So we have this number R7D03 that is 32 core. I have S4V66 32 core, and I have S4V66 another 32 core. So what are the differences? Okay. So let's look at the R7D03. So 2 controller node. So I will select 0 drive enclosure. So what do you see on the picture? Slot 1 is a 2-port, right? Slot 1 is a 2-port 100 gig Ethernet. So what do you need to connect? Bay 1 connect to Bay 2, right? So Bay 1 connect to Bay 2. So so if you look at this, that is the CX6 cable, right? So this one here, the node to node connection. Okay, so that is the old SKU number, right? R7D03 is the old 32 core controller. Now, let me switch over to S4V66. Right, S4V66. So what is the controller behind? See the S1 port is 4-port. Right, so S1 is 4-port. So what does this one actually mean? Let me put it back as a slideshow here. And let me get the pen. So that is the new 32 core without the Aruba switch. Okay. So the new 32 core without the Aruba switch, the node to node connection is using the mezzanine card. And here you have the third HBA, right? So the third HBA is the 4-port, right? The 4-port in the cabling tools, right? So it's still 2 nodes, 2 controller nodes, okay? Now, so we have the last one here, S4V66, right? S4V66, but this one is a 4 controller only. See this one here? So 4 controller only. So this is the 4 controller nodes without Aruba switches. Okay. So basically is where's the slide earlier? This one here, right? So the quad node system, this one. Okay. So that's the quad node system without the Aruba switches. So let's look at the cabling, right? So first cable, controller node 0 at the bottom, right? E01, B1, controller node 0, connect to E02, bay number 1. Second cable, connect from E01, bay 1 to E02, bay number 2. Okay, so the controller node number is start from the bottom, controller node 0, controller node 1, right? So this one here is controller node number 2, and the one on the top is the controller node number 3. Okay, so that's the cabling for the 4 controller node system without the 2 Aruba switches, right? So the maximum you can add is only 1 JBOF, right? E41. So basically the cabling same as the video, right? But this one is the 4 controller nodes. So you can see the blue to the yellow cable, 1 port to 1 port. So we have 4 cables connecting from the 4 controller to the 4 port in the E41. Okay, so you can only use the first port, the first DP port. Now, so this is all the cabling tools without the Aruba switches, right? So let me go back to the older one, right? R32, sorry, R7D03, the 32 core. So I'm going to go back to the basic, which is this one here, right? So 2 controller nodes without JBOF enclosure. So let's do this. So I'm going to select this one here, right? So the switch pair. So the switch pair basically is this one here, right? So we can only do this with a 16 core or 32 core controller. And let's do this. I have a switch pair, and immediately one JBOF drive enclosure is automatically added, and we can do performance cabling or capacity cabling, right? So let's do performance cabling, right? So we have the controller E41, right? The controller chassis. Bay 1 is the node 0, Bay 2 is the controller node number 1. So let's take a look at the cable, right? So the important one is the red cable. See this red cable here? All right. Now, I need to explain this, right? So let's go back to the PowerPoint. Right. So, so we saw this PowerPoint. We saw this earlier. CDM to the CDM connection. So I'll come back to explain this later. But let's take a look at this PowerPoint here. Got to do with the setup. Okay. So why this is important, right? So let me open up the slideshow here. So the most important point right now is I want you to read this. Okay. So controller node 0 will set up the two Aruba switches. Right? Controller node 0 will set up the two Aruba switches, SW1 and SW2. So all other controller will have to wait for the switch setup to be completed first. So the second thing that I want to point everyone here is this one. Okay. So the node number, right? The node number start from node 0, node 1, node 2, node 3. So the first node that is connected to the first port, the first IOM that is connected to the first port in the Aruba switch, that is the controller node 0. Okay? So that is the controller node 0, the first controller that is connected to the first port. Okay? This one here, right? So let's go back to the cabling tools. So this is what I want you to understand this, right? So E01 controller node in bay 1 is connected to the first port in SW1, and the second port is also connected to the SW2 on the first port. So this bay 1, right, B1 here, is the controller node 0, the first one. Okay, so the controller node 0 will set up the two Aruba switches. After the setup is completed, the two switches is enabled, and only after that the cable, right, from the B2 is connected to the second port. Right? So two more cable from the B2 is connected to the second port on the Aruba switches. So B2 is the controller node number 1. Right? So this is very, very important when you try to set up the switch B10000. Okay? So if your cable to the switch port is wrong, the hardware number will change. Okay? Now, so this is the red cable, right? Which is the node to node connection. And then the blue cable is the DP port connection. And then the yellow cable to the JBOF connection. right? So this example, the two switches, controller node 01 and the first JBOF E41, cabling type performance. So what is the maximum configuration? So I can have 3 controller nodes. So you see the 3 controller nodes, right? E01, bay 1 and 2, E02, bay number 1. Okay, so this is now the odd number. So node 0 cable, node 1 cable, and node number 2 cable. Okay, so odd number, 3 controllers, the drive port, the DP ports, and the yellow color cable to the JBOF. Okay, so how many JBOF if I want to set up the performance cabling, right? So the drive enclosure here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all the way down. So let me reduce the browser zoom. So the maximum is 16. So let's select 8 first, right? Performance cabling. So when I have 8 drive enclosure, right? 8 GBOF. So you can see all the yellow color ports. They are connected. Right? So let me zoom in. Right? So you can see all the yellow color ports are all connected. Right? So what is the maximum configuration? Is 4 controllers, 8 JBOF for performance cabling. But if I change this to capacity cabling, I can go up to 16 JBOF. Right? So 4 controller nodes, 16 drive enclosure. Right? So basically the same concept. Start with the red color cable. Right? So all the 4 controller nodes, the red color cable is connected, followed by the blue color cable. So now the yellow color cable, right? So this is the capacity cabling, right? So this is the capacity cabling. So what happened to the yellow color cable? So it's only 2 cable, right? So only 2 cable is connected. First cable go to the SW1, second cable goes to the SW2. So all the yellow color cable on the top is connected to the first 8, right? So the first 8 JBOF, and the bottom ports, the yellow color bottom ports is connected from number 9 JBOF until the maximum 16. Right? So this is the maximum, the biggest B10000 that is supported today. All right. Now, so I have a question for everyone here in the class. See the black color port? Let me zoom in here to the black color port, right? See this port that is no cable connected. Port that is no cable connected. So my question to everyone is this. What is the maximum configuration in the future? Right? So right now it's only 4 controller, right? E01, B1, E01, B2, E02, B1, E02, B2. So we only have 4 controllers today. Okay? So we only have 4 controllers today, right? So let me do this. Some of this information I will say is still confidential, right? Let me show you one slides. I cannot show you everything. I only show you one slides here. This one. All right. So this is the first thing that I want you to understand, right? So we have the older products, right? So we have the Alletra 5000, we have the Alletra 6000, we have the Primera 600, we have the Alletra 9000. So we're supposed to move everyone over here. And I'm going to show you this one here. Okay. See number 5 and number 6. All right. Controller node number 5 and controller node number 6 is coming, right? Is coming, but I cannot tell you when, right? So this is one of the information that I can tell you, right? And this would give you the answer of this one here, right? So you see the red color port, controller node 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the 6 controller system, right? So controller node 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that will use up the 2 port here on the red color and another 2 ports on the blue color. Okay, so that's the first thing that is coming, right? Now, so another one slides that I want to show you is this one, right? So if you go back and take a look at the history, right? So the history start from the 3-par, right? So the history start from 3-par. So we have the 2 nodes, we have the 4 nodes, but here we have the 8-node system, right? So you see what happened, right? So the 8-node system, we don't have a replacement product in a Primera 600. We don't have a replacement system in the Alletra 9000, right? So the closest right now that is coming is the 6-node switch architecture. Okay, so that is coming. So 8 nodes, we can go up to the 6th node in these slides, right? I cannot tell you when, but I'm telling you this is the roadmap, right, that is happening. So there's a 6 node coming. And if you look at this, in the future, we will go up to the 8 nodes, right? So why 8 nodes? So if you look at the cabling, so we have node number 7 and node number 8. There is no cable connected in the Aruba switches. Okay, so basically that is the answer, right? Based on the switch configuration for the B10000. Okay, so so basically is ready for future, right? So ready for future, um, when the customer is looking for a similar 8 nodes, right? 8 controllers system to replace the 3-bar store serve 20,000. So they are looking at hardware to hardware match. Okay, so that's the use of the cabling tools. Okay, now so on the cabling tools, we can also look at the upgrade, right? So adding a new node or adding a new drive enclosure. So we can also use this for the upgrading, right? So let's come back to the welcome center, right? So this is why I wanted to run through the video, right, in this part. So you can see the cabling tools and the labels and everything. So this is the host connection, right? Cabling to the host, cabling the power supply, the power cable, right? And then followed by the power on, right? So after the power on, so we will come down to the setup, right? So this is a setup. So discover the array using the Discovery Tool software, right? And then connect to the array. So there's a recorded video here. So after the array is connected to the cloud, so let me show you what happened in the DSCC right now, okay? So the serial number, subscription key, everything is already completed. So if I go to services, data services, okay? So let's go to data services. And in the data services, we will go to the setup service here at the bottom, okay? So let me open up the setup service. And let me zoom in to give you the detail. So you can see the serial number, right? 4412, 4413, 4494, 4495. So currently is not connected, right? Is not connected. So is onboarded because we add the serial number and the subscription key earlier. So is there. Now, I also want to explain here. So we have the blueprint, right? So what is the blueprint? So the blueprint is actually the initialization worksheet, right? So we have the DNS, we have the time zone, right? We have the NTP server. So we have the proxy, right? The proxy port, the customer detail, the array name, the array IP address, so the subnet mask, the gateway, and the super user admin. Okay, so we have the blueprint for array 1, array 2, array 3, array 4. Okay, so basically, this is the 4 lab group that I mentioned this morning. So 4 of you who started the class this morning, so you have a full access to the 4 system, array 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I see that there's one more person that joined the class, right? Let me get the name. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So one of you that just joined the class, so you probably would have to join one of the person to go through the lab exercise. Okay. So basically, that is the lab environment, right? For you to do the lab exercise later today. So let's go back to our slides here. Hold on, this one. Okay. So this is why I need to explain, right, the cabling tools and this setup slide here, right, this part for the switch configuration. So let's go back up here, right? So this is the example, serial number, product number, subscription key, right? The initialization worksheet. So I talk about the blueprint, right? So this is all the same information, right? In the blueprint. So what do you have? So you have lab 1 shortly, right? So anyway, looking at the time, is time for us to break for lunch, right? So what else? So this one here, right? So if you have a switch configuration like this, when you do the installation, you might see some of the errors showing up like this here. Okay, so the error that show up here is actually temporary. So this is because of the switch config. So the configuration, the detection of the hardware, right, is all based on the two Aruba switches config. So if the two Aruba switch config is not completed, so you see some of the errors. So the errors will go away, right, as you go through from the first step to the second step to the third step. So they would normally automatically fix the error. Okay. So the only problem is your cable is wrong. Okay. So the cable is wrong, then that would actually stop the setup. Okay, so this is the important part when you try to set up the B10000 switch model. Okay, now so all these are the slides, right? Using the older Green Lake. So you can see all the layout, the older Green Lake's platform, which is changed today, right? So this is the old method, right, to do the subscription key. And this is where your lab start, right? So lab 1, you start from the discovery tool software, type in the serial number of your B10000, and he will try to discover the B10000, and you click the launch button. So you see the cloud init page, put in the details, and they will get connected to the cloud. Okay. Now, so what happened in your lab, right? So Let me go to the VLab here. So when you log into your VLab, right? So group 1, array 1, group 2, array 2, group 3, array 3, group 4, array 4. Okay? So when you log into the lab, you have your class file folder, right? So the class file folder here have array 1, 2, 3, 4, array 5, everything. So let me go to this PowerPoint here, right? So let me explain from here. So I show you the blueprint just now, okay? So the blueprint will help you to put in all the information without having to type manually, right? So typing manually, sometimes human error, that becomes a problem. And when you type wrong IP address or wrong subnet, I may not be able to fix the problem because I need to ask the VLab engineer to reset your equipment back to factory default. Okay, so to reset the equipment back to factory default, this may take 1 hour, maybe longer. Okay, so I just want to warn everyone here, when you do your lab exercise, type everything carefully, follow the information for your system, right? Follow the serial number. So don't change the password, don't delete the blueprint, and also do not perform the Arcus or the Alletra OS update. Okay. Now, in your lab guide, you have two different connectivity from your Windows Server to the B10000. So you can use iSCSI. You can also use Fiber Channel, worldwide name. You can do both. Okay. So the problem with, if you want to do both, right? Fiber channel plus iSCSI, when you set up the host name, you set up the host set name, you set up the volume name or the volume set name, the name in the DSCC cannot be the same, but the connection is different, right? So if you plan to do both fiber channel and iSCSI, so the name that you set, put FC for the fiber channel and put IQN for the iSCSI, right? So that you don't have duplicate name when you create all this, right? Now, so there's also another problem. The Windows server in the VLab is a little bit older, right? The older version. So the Chrome browser inside your VLab is outdated, and because of the Windows version, the new Chrome browser cannot be installed, and the old Chrome browser cannot be updated. So this would have some compatibility issue working with the GreenLake DSCC. So what I would suggest everyone to do when you need to log in to the DSCC, right, the GreenLake portal, use the browser on your own system, your own laptop. Okay, so avoid using the browser inside the VLab. You may have problem. Okay, now so the whole environment So we have array 1, we have array 2, we have array 3, and we have array 4. Okay. So array 1, 2, 3, 4, this is the grouping. So Win 1, 2, 3 is connected to array 1. So Win 4, 5, 6 is connected to array 2. So Win 7, 8, 9 is connected to array 3. And Win 10, 11, 12 is connected to array 4. Okay. So we have the class file, we have the gateway, we have the proxy, and we have two quorum weakness here, right? QW1 and QW2. So the quorum weakness is used for lab number 3, the remote copy setup. Okay. Now, so you can see this example, right? Discovery 2 in a class file, right? And if you click at the array folder here, so what do you see in the array folder? Right? I'll show you the next slide. So this is example array number 5. So we have the text file. We have the serial number. We have the IP address, subnet mask, everything. So we have the proxy, right? So the only one that you don't need to use is the GreenLake login, right? So you see the GreenLake login, I removed this because this is the old password. Okay. So other information you can use this, right? Everything is from the text document inside your array number, array 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this is all the shortcuts, right? So you see all the shortcuts here. So the Chrome browser shortcut, the Internet Explorer shortcut, the ILO remote console shortcuts, the SSH to ILO, right? SSH to ILO, shortcuts for PuTTY, SSH to the array IP address, and SSH to the ILO USB port. Okay, so you see all the shortcuts. So another thing that I want to explain here, if you set up iSCSI, but you want to do remote copy, okay? So if you follow the lab, you only have one target, follow the serial number, right? So if you want to use the iSCSI volume and you want to do remote copy, so all the other storage, right, you need to add the iSCSI target. So they need to be connected. Okay. So if they are not connected, your remote copy failover will not work. Okay. Now, so this example, when you set up your fiber channel or iSCSI, so this example, you need to know your server IQN for the iSCSI, right? So when you do this, see this example here, right? So Win00 IQN. So I separate the name, one name for the fiber channel, one name for the IQN. Okay. And also when you use the iSCSI IQN, you need to get the IP address of your iSCSI initiator. Okay. So the iSCSI initiator is from here. So when you run the show addresses, so here they will show you the fiber channel worldwide name and also the IQN, the iSCSI qualified name. Okay. So the iSCSI IP address will show up there. Right. So this is the Ethernet connection to the iSCSI network 172.16.1. Okay. So you will see all this, right, as you go through your lab exercise. And this is also maybe another problem. See this here? So you see the array number, right? The array number under the host group or the host. So this is created using the local on system web UI. So what you need to do is make this cloud compatible. Okay, so if you see this problem, you can make it cloud compatible. So they will run through the whole process and do the filter and set it up to become DSCC compatible. Okay. Now, so for the lab exercise later this afternoon, so we will start from lab 1, continue to lab 2, continue to lab 3, and maybe lab number 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, so what is the challenge? Let me stop here first, and hold on. This is okay. So I don't have the slides here. Um, so let me go back to my PowerPoint. So module 0. So this is all the lab exercise for today and tomorrow, right? So we're going to start from lab 1, continue to lab 2, 3, and stop somewhere here. Okay. So that's day number 1. And then for tomorrow, we will continue until lab number 9. All right. So somewhere in the halfway point here, right? So that's the target after lunch, right? When you start doing your lab exercise, right? So basically that's the information I need everyone to be clear, right? And let's come back to, okay, I don't need this PowerPoint anymore. So let's come back to here, lab number 3. Lab number 3, remote copy setup. So the first setup is up to you, right? If you want to do fiber channel first, or you want to do remote copy over TCP/IP first, right? So if you complete both, I will tell you the solution. Okay. Now, so this is the challenge when you set up the remote copy, right? Lab number 3. So you need to work with the other group, right? Array 1, you need to work with array 2 group to set up the remote copy fiber channel, and you will add the quorum weakness QW number 1. So the end result is an active peer persistent solution. Group number 3 And group number 4, you will do the same. So this is your active peer persistent. So if the 4 group completed this, we would have 2 active peer persistent system inside the VLAB. Okay, so this can only be done through fiber channel remote copy replication. Then if you do the remote copy over TCP/IP, is array 1 and array 3 and array 2 to array 4. So we are doing the cross. Okay, so this is the RCIP. So what is the idea behind this? You can see from the slide title. So the idea behind this is a 3 data center long distance solution. Okay, the 3DC long distance solution. So these are the RCIP port and the IP addresses. So the end result is this. Okay, so array 1 to 2 is a active peer persistent HA. And then array 1 to 3 is the long distance, right? So for example, on the long distance, your replication is the periodic snapshot replication. So it's asynchronous. Okay. And then from array 2 to array 4 is also synchronous mode, periodic asynchronous, long distance over TCP/IP. So if you look at the whole big picture here, right, using the 4 array, so this can be a 3DC setup. It can be also a 4 data center setup. So you can see that at the bottom here. And all the site, WBT, right? So array 1 is site 1, array 2 is site 2, array 3 is site number 3, array 4 is site number 4. So the 4 data center solution, they are all active. So that's the example, right? If all the 4 lab group completed the setup for lab 3. So you see all this information, right, that will help you to complete the lab exercise, right? So the quorum weakness IP address, the array 1, array 2, array 3, array 4, right? All the different IP addresses that you need to know. And also the ILO IP address, the remote copy, and also the iSCSI IP addresses that you need to set up, right, as you go through your lab exercise. And then I talked about this just now, the GreenLake login, right, the login email address, and the password. So remember, we do not use the single sign-on for the GreenLake login. Okay, and this is for tomorrow, lab number 9. So before you reset factory, the B10000, you need to do the cleanup, right? So these are the examples, step by step, to do the proper cleanup. And after all the cleanup is completed, especially the remote copy group, then you can reset the B10000 back to factory, right, using the services reinit command. Okay. So basically, this is the PowerPoint, right, that will help you to understand the VLab environment across the 4 different lab group. Okay. Now, so what I'm going to do is give you the VLab login. So basically this one here. So I have 4 of your name from the starting this morning. So I allocated group 1, array 1, group 2, array 2, group 3, array 3, group 4, array 4, right? So each one of you have your own login. So just hang on, let me save this file. And let me do this, right? So let me stop my screen share. And let me go to the breakout room and start the breakout room first. Okay. So just hang on. Let me start the breakout room. And let me upload the VLab login. Okay. So I'm uploading another PPTX file to the course handout, right? And let me show you the same slides. So just hang on. B10,000. Right. So what you need to do is go ahead, download the PPTX file number 4, and if you have used Adobe Connect breakout room, right, which is quite easy, but let me explain this. All right. So first one, right? So how do you log into the VLab? So go to VLab's portal, right? Go to the VLabs portal, and normally the email address that you log in to HPE Support Center, right, which is your HPE account, you can use the same to log in to the VLab portal. Okay. So after you log into the VLab portal, select join a new course, right? So to join a new course, you need to know the course username and the course password. Okay. So the course username and the course password is on this PowerPoint, right? You see this this slide here, right? Let me maximize this on your screen first, right? So Travis, you are using user number 1, right? So you can see this here, user number 1. Okay, so this is the password. So you are using array number 1, and this is the serial number. So Mustafa, you are using number 4 and array number 2, and this is the serial number. Carlos, user number 7, the password, array number 3, and the serial number. And Junior Camilo, user number 10, right? And the password number 10, array number 4, and the serial number. Okay, so you can see all this information from the PPTX document. Okay, now so one of you just joined, correct? So I see there's 5 person here. So yep. So for the 5th person, you can select one of the group, right? So whether you want to join group 1, group 2, group 3, or group 4, you can join them. And this is why I need to enable the breakout room. Okay. So the breakout room will allow you to share your screen if you have 2 person working together. Okay. So what you see on the top right now, you are in the main room. So click the arrow, drop down, you can see Alletra 1, Alletra 2, Alletra 3, Alletra 4. Okay. So basically group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. Right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So once you go inside the breakout room, you can share your screen. Right. Share the screen. Right. Entire screen. And remember, you need to click the share button. Okay. So if you need to stop sharing, you can see this, right? If you want to stop the screen share inside the breakout room. So what you need to complete, right? As I mentioned earlier. So which are the lab exercise? So lab 1 must be completed, right? So lab 3 is challenging. So I put it as optional. So lab 3, if you can do, go ahead. You may hit problem because lab 3 need to work with all the other array to set this up. And you also need to complete lab 4 for today. Right? So lab 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So this would be the target for everyone. Right? If you are working alone, you can do it on your own time. So so what we'll do is this. I will set up the timer. So hold on, let me do this. Right, let me open up a new pod here. Right. So what I'll do is I'll set up the countdown timer. Just hang on. All right. So I'll set up the countdown timer here. I'll put it on the side. Hold on the side here. Okay. So let me set this up as 1 hour. Right. For our lunch break. Right. So that's the timer for our lunch break. 1 hour from now. So so everyone can go ahead, take a break, and when you come back, go ahead, start the setup lab 1, then continue to lab 2, try to do lab 3, try to complete lab 4 by end of today. Okay, so no more lecture. So lecture will continue tomorrow morning. All right. So that's all from me. So I will break 1 hour for lunch, and then I'll be back here, right? So if you have any question, look for me in the main classroom chat. Okay, so type in the main classroom chat because I'll be monitoring that screen. Okay, so is everyone clear? All right, so take a break, start the lab,